sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Okay, so picture this. You get an email at work and it says, hey, tell me everything you did last week. And they need it back right away. Like super quick turnaround. And oh yeah, if you don't do it, you're fired.
Sounds a little intense.
Right. Would you even answer that?
I don't know. It would depend.
Well, now imagine that email didn't come from your boss, but from like DOGE.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that changes things a bit.
That's what's happening to millions of federal employees, and it is causing some major chaos.
Yeah, I can imagine.
To break it all down, we're diving into this crazy story from Axios today.
Sounds like a good one.
So to really get this, we need to talk about DOGE a bit.
Right. So DOGE, and this is, for anyone who maybe isn't super familiar, it's a private organization that's gotten really involved with the government lately.
Yeah, and it's not like they're officially calling the shots or anything.
No, not officially, but they've got a lot of influence.
Definitely. And that influence is what's making this whole situation so messy. This Axios article really breaks it all down, starting with this bizarre email.
Yeah. So this email, it came from the Office of Personnel Management.
The OPM.
Right, the OPM, which basically handles HR for federal employees.
Oh, okay.
But this email, it wasn't your typical HR stuff. It basically told employees, like across all these different agencies, that they had to report on everything they did the week before.
And they wanted it back quickly too, right?
You know, like super fast turnaround, which is part of why people were freaking out.
Yeah, I bet. Like, what's the big rush?
Exactly.
Then, to make things even weirder, Elon Musk gets involved.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and Musk, as we know, has some pretty strong ties to DOGE.
Yeah.
So he goes on X, you know, what used to be Twitter, and he basically says that any federal employee who doesn't answer this email is going to be fired.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, it went from confusing to straight up scary pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Elon Musk, who doesn't have an official position in the government, is saying he can fire federal workers.
Right. It's like, can he actually do that? Is
Yeah.
that even legal?
That's the thing. Legally speaking, DOGE and Musk can't just fire federal employees because they didn't answer an email.
Oh, okay.
Federal employees have all these protections, you know, to stop them from getting fired for no reason.
Right.
To actually fire someone, there's a whole process. You need a good reason. And ignoring a weird email,
Yeah.
probably not going to cut it.
So even with Musk making these threats, it seems like there are laws in place to protect these employees.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean they aren't totally stressed out, right?
Of course not. This whole thing is a huge public spectacle.
Yeah.
Imagine you're a federal employee and your agency saying one thing, and then you've got DOGE saying something else.
And then you've got these big names like Musk and Trump weighing in.
Exactly. It's a recipe for disaster.
Total chaos.
So yeah, I'd say those employees are feeling the pressure.
It's like they're stuck in this tug of war and they're the rope.
Yeah, good analogy.
And speaking of conflicting messages, the way different federal agencies reacted to this email was wild.
Oh yeah, some of them really pushed back hard.
He did, didn't they?
Like the FBI, the Pentagon, Homeland Security.
Good ones.
Huge agencies. They all basically said, nope, not doing it.
Wow.
Yeah, they told their people to ignore the email entirely.
It's pretty incredible to see that level of defiance. Like, they're standing up to DOGE.
It is. It's like David and Goliath.
Right. And it shows that not everyone's willing to just bow down to DOGE's demands.
Totally.
But then the OPM does something that just makes everything more confusing.
Oh, yeah. The OPM, they're kind of all over the place with this.
So first they send out this super demanding email, right?
Right.
But then they backtrack and say, well, actually, maybe you don't have to listen to us.
It's almost like they realized they messed up.
Right. Like, oh, wait, maybe this wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah.
And then they basically said it's up to each agency's leadership to decide what to do.
Exactly. So now it's like, who are these employees supposed to listen to?
Right. No wonder everyone's feeling whiplashed.
Absolutely.
And just when you think it can't get any weirder, former President Trump jumps into the mix.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Things are about to get even more dramatic.
Okay, so what did Trump do?
Well, he comes out and basically supports Musk's threat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he says that anyone who doesn't answer this email will be semi-fired.
Semi-fired. What does that even mean?
Right. Sounds like something from a reality TV show.
Exactly.
Like, is that a real thing? Can you be semi-fired? Especially if you're a federal employee with all those job protections.
You make a good point, and you're totally right to question that.
Yeah.
Semi-fired is completely made up. It's a meaningless term.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Especially when it comes to federal employment law.
Right.
It just shows how much this whole situation has blurred the lines between, political talk and actual legal stuff.
It's kind of comical how much contradictory information is flying around.
I know, right?
Musk is making threats. Some agencies are pushing back. The OPM is changing their mind. And then Trump throws in the semi-fired thing.
It's enough to make anyone's head spin.
Especially if you're a federal employee just trying to do your job.
Exactly. And all this drama is kind of distracting from what the legal experts are saying, which is really important.
So we've got all this chaos, confusing orders, legal experts saying one thing and politicians saying another, and millions of federal employees are just stuck in the middle of it all.
Yeah, it's a mess for sure.
But I keep thinking about this. Why is DOGE even involved in this in the first place?
Right.
It's not like managing federal employees is part of their job.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the Axios article, it doesn't really get into DOGE's motives, but we can kind of look at what we already know about them and see if we can figure something out.
Okay, so let's play detective here.
Right.
What are some of the theories about why DOGE would get so aggressive in this situation?
Well, one possibility is that this is like a power move.
Oh, okay.
DOGE has been getting more and more influence in the government.
Right.
So maybe this is their way of showing everyone who's boss.
Like they're testing the limits of their power?
Exactly.
But if they're trying to get even more powerful, what does that mean for the government itself? Like, could we see a shift in who really has the power?
I mean, it's possible, right? If DOGE can just tell federal agencies what to do, even if it's not legal,
Yeah.
it sets a pretty bad example.
It's a dangerous precedent.
Yeah, exactly. And it could make them even bolder in the future. They might start trying to control things that are supposed to be handled by, elected officials in government agencies.
And if that happens, then who keeps them in check?
Right.
It's like, how can we hold them accountable if they're operating behind the scenes and making all these decisions?
That's why it's so important to really understand what DOGE is doing and why.
Right.
We need to know how much influence they have, what their goals are, and what the consequences could be.
For the employees and for the whole government.
Exactly.
Okay, so a power grab, that's one theory. What else could be going on?
One other idea is that maybe this whole email thing is about gathering information. Maybe not spying exactly, but more like intelligence gathering.
Okay, I can see that.
That question in the email, what did you do last week?
Yeah.
Depending on what someone's job is, the answer could tell you a lot about what's going on in their agency.
Oh, I see. Like their projects, their priorities, all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, the Department of Health and Human Services, they actually told their employees to write their answers, like someone from another country might be reading it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So they were worried that the information from those emails could be used against us.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, it raises a lot of questions about data security and privacy, right?
Yeah, big time.
And it makes you wonder about DOGE, like, are they handling this information properly? Who has access to it?
Are they following the same rules that the government has to follow?
Right. All good questions.
So we've got power grab, we've got intelligence gathering. Any other ideas about what DOGE might be up to?
Well, there's one more possibility, but it's a little more out there.
Okay, what is it?
Some people think the DOGE might be trying to, mess things up on purpose.
Cause chaos.
Yeah, basically.
But why would they do that?
Well, the idea is that if they can create enough confusion and distrust, then those agencies won't be able to work as well.
Oh, so it's not about getting information or taking over. It's about weakening them from the inside.
Exactly. Think about all the problems this email has caused.
Yeah.
You've got agencies fighting with DOGE, the OPM can't make up its mind, and all the employees are stressed out and confused.
Yeah.
It's not a good environment for getting things done, is it?
Nope.
And if these agencies can't do their jobs properly, then they can't help people or provide those services they're supposed to.
Wow, that's pretty messed up.
It is.
So whether DOGE is doing this on purpose or it's just a side effect of how they operate, the impact on these agencies is real.
Totally.
And that's what's worrying. So we've talked about a few reasons why DOGE might be doing this a power grab. Maybe they're trying to get information, or maybe they just want to cause trouble.
It's a lot to think about, right?
It really is. And I bet our listeners are trying to figure out what it all means just like we are.
Definitely.
But even if we don't know exactly why DOGE is doing this, there's a bigger question here.
What's that?
What does all this mean for the future? Like for the government and for how power works in our country?
That's the big question, isn't it?
This whole situation feels like it's showing us some cracks in the system. If DOGE can have this much influence, even what they're doing might not be legal.
Right.
It makes you wonder how far they can actually go.
Yeah, and that's something that legal experts have been worried about, too.
They have.
Yeah, the Axios article actually quotes a law professor from Georgetown.
Okay.
His name is David Super. And he says that DOGE has this crazy ability to make agencies do what they want, even if it breaks the law.
That's pretty scary.
It is.
It's like saying that political pressure can be stronger than the actual law. And if that's true, what does that mean for the future?
Well, some people are worried that it could weaken our democracy,
Yeah.
Like what happens to the rule of law if powerful people can just ignore it?
Right.
It sets a bad precedent, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like the Wild West, but for the government. I like that.
Anyone with enough power can do whatever they want.
Yeah, and that's not how things are supposed to work.
Definitely not. We're supposed to have transparency and accountability and, checks and balances.
Right, exactly.
But this situation is showing us that those things might not be enough.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what we can do to make sure that power is used the right way and that the law is actually followed.
Right, because if we don't do something, it's not just the federal employees who are at risk.
It's everyone.
It's our whole government and the trust that people have in it.
Exactly.
And that's what makes this whole thing so important. It's not just about DOGE and email.
Right.
It's about the foundation of our democracy.
And how we protect it. Exactly. And that's why this situation is such a big deal. It's showing us that we need to be careful, we need to pay attention, and we need to make sure that our government is working the way it's supposed to.
We can't just assume that everything will be okay.
Exactly. We have to stay informed, we have to ask questions, and we have to hold those in power accountable.
I think that's a great message to leave our listeners with.
I do too. So to everyone out there, remember, the future of our government and our democracy depends on all of us being involved and making sure that those in power are doing the right thing. This situation with DOGE and the federal agencies, it's just one example of the challenges we're facing.
Yeah.
But it shows us that we can't take our democracy for granted.
It takes work to keep it strong and healthy.